Man, I love football players that want to be coached hard.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Wednesday, a hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network here on Wednesday, May 8th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. There are athletes out there that don't like to be coached hard. That's no secret. That's something that we see all the time. Athletes and coaches want to coach you hard. Well, a lot of them do. Some athletes say they want to be coached hard, but it's only in word only. It's not in application, and to them, it's not practical for them as an athlete. Then there are those athletes that want to be coached hard, are open about wanting to be coached hard, go to a coach and ask them to coach them hard, and then are receptive to hard coaching. That is something Will Howard approached Ryan Day and Chip Kelly with by asking them, hey, coach me hard. I love it. This is what players need to do. This is the type of mindset every athlete should have at Ohio State. You should want to be coached hard. And hard coaching isn't easy to receive all the time. I mean, I've been there. I'm sure a lot of you athletes have been too. It's not always the most friendliest or the nicest or the thing that you get thrown at you and you're like, oh, yeah, I get that. I know it's hard to take in a little bit, but I get it. Hard coaching is not for the faint of heart. But when a guy comes in from Kansas State and talks about, hey, this is what I want. These are some things that I really am looking forward to when I come here. And one of them is hard coaching. And this young man asked his head coach and quarterback coach and OC, hey, coach me hard. You got to love it. You got to appreciate it. And I actually heard this from the Buckeye show on 97.1 The Fan. Caught an interview that they did with Greg Fry, former Ohio State quarterback, between 1987 until 1990. Played in 2 bowl games. Did not win either one. The Hall of Fame Bowl in 89. The Liberty Bowl in 1990. And he is still coaching and teaching quarterbacks to this day. It's not like he was just a former player. He is a former player that is teaching people the quarterback position right now. So he talked about some things that he learned while talking to talking to Will Howard after the spring game. And this came up. He also stated, Will Howard did too, Greg Fry, that Will Howard wasn't coached that much in detail at Kansas State. Now, you may say, Jay, that's a Power 5 conference school. Now it's a Power 4 conference school. Wait, you mean they weren't coaching him in detail, in that much detail at Kansas State? Those are his words, not mine. Relayed by Greg Fry on the radio show. But it wouldn't shock me if that's the narrative about a lot of places out there. Why? It's hard to coach detail at any position, especially the quarterback position. So as much as we would like to say, oh, anywhere you go in the country, you're going to get all the detail you want, no matter if it's quarterback or receiver or a linebacker or a safety or a kicker. You're going to get all the detail in your coaching. We would love to say that. But the truth is that's not the norm. It's not the norm at all. And so it's a little weird to say that out loud, but this is true. He also said there was not a lot of coaching at Kansas State with reads and progressions. And I am thinking, you're running the read option. You're running RPO out there in Kansas State. Wouldn't you think reads and progression are things that you would be taught? But think about this. Reads and progression, that's more of a passing conversation. Yeah, there are reads in the run game and the RPO game and the read option game. But also, when you say reads and progressions, you're thinking more passing. And let me tell you, if you're a quarterback out there that's not being taught reads and progressions, but you want to go to the NFL, you're going to be a guy that goes into the NFL and realizing, whoa, I am back at square one in this concept, in this part of the game, back in the elementary stage. Why? Because they may have taught it to me in high school, but on a limited scale, because you're very, very limited on practice time and how much time you can spend with the coach and things like that based on you being a high schooler and you having to go to class, and then all of a sudden at the end of an 8-hour day, you got to go to practice, and then what happens then? You go home and you have to do your homework and you got to get some rest. Why? Because you got to go back to school the very next day, and what does the coach do? He goes home, he maybe to his family, maybe he has kids, and he has his own things he has to do at home. Very, very limited at the high school level. In college, if you're not learning these things there, you get to the NFL and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I have been a starting quarterback, some of these guys 5 or 6 or 7 years, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years between high school and college. And now you're telling these coaches, hey, I was never taught these things. And they're like, wait, excuse me? I mean, in the film, it looks like you do it very, very well, but that's what I taught myself. But even then, the things you're teaching me, I was never taught. That's not great. That's not good. And I don't think Will Howard was trying to throw darts at Kansas State during this conversation with Greg Fry, former Ohio State quarterback. But I think it's a great thing to know that it sheds light on the reality of the situation that the team is in at that point in time. Ohio State, it's a luxury to have Chip Kelly and Ryan Day on the same coaching staff. It's a huge luxury. It's one of those things that a lot of teams in the sport would love to have. A coach with the success of Ryan Day during his short tenure as Buckeyes head coach. A coach with a track record of Chip Kelly as being one of the best offensive minds in the sport. And now your quarterback who's transferring in for one more ride in college football, who has dreams to play in the National Football League, who has dreams to do big things this year at Ohio State. And he comes to you and says, hey, coach me hard. I want to be coached hard. That's the kind of quarterback you want to have on your roster. And that's the kind of quarterback Ryan Day and Chip Kelly want to coach as well. You want to have a guy out there that wants to be coached hard. But also, when he says he wants to be coached hard, what is it? You got to be out there and look and say, he says he wants to be coached hard, but he's also receptive to that hard coaching. It's two different conversations. Remember, my playing career, which wasn't really that lengthy, a lot of you guys playing different sports as well. Maybe you're a youngster still playing, or maybe you're older and you played younger, or you're a coach now and you're saying, oh, I want players to be like Will Howard in the mindset and to go do that with the coach. That's great. That's what you want. And as Ryan Day, I'll keep going back to that interview with Josh Pate. As Ryan Day brings in guys, he says Ohio State isn't a place for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. And even if you're not the most skilled guy in the world, if you come in with the right mindset and you're talented enough to be here and you're receptive to hard coaching and you continue to get better, these are the kinds of guys that you want in Columbus. And Will Howard is one of those guys. Now, in this interview, Greg Fry on the Buckeye Show on 97.1 The Fan also talked about another Buckeye quarterback who he thinks will move up the Buckeye depth chart and move up a couple spots. I'll tell you who that is next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. That's right, a grill with a 30-year warranty. Everything you need for in-home and backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. And whether you like charcoal or gas or wood-fired grills, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. They are family-owned and operated. And when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One thing I am looking forward to this year is watching the younger quarterbacks and if they get on the field and how quickly they get on the field, and if they get on the field, how often they're on the field. Yes, thinking about younger quarterbacks, there's three guys that come to mind. Lincoln Kienholz ain't been at Ohio State for a very long time. And then Julian Sand and Aaron Nolan literally just got on campus a few months ago. Aaron Nolan, I don't think will play that much, if at all, this year. This is a redshirt year for him. Lincoln Kienholz, not a redshirt year where that happened last year, but I don't expect him to get on the field either. And Julian Sand is one that in my mind I am thinking he is good. He's a good quarterback. He can do good things. Will he actually get on the field? And Greg Fry, former Buckeye quarterback, said the guy that impressed him in the spring game and the things that he saw was Julian Sand. And he said this after making a long statement at the end of the interview. Literally, he's on the show. The radio host made a final comment, getting ready to let Greg Fry go off of the show. And Greg Fry made a lengthy comment about Julian Sand. And he said this, quote, "Mark my words, I think he's going to jump a few spots," end quote. And you normally don't say that about freshmen, true freshmen, redshirt freshmen. You normally don't say that. He literally just got on campus in January. That was after transferring to Ohio State from Alabama. So it's not like he was coming to Ohio State first. No, he was on the Buckeyes' radar. He was the top quarterback on their board. They didn't get a commitment from him. He goes into the portal after Saban retires. And what happens? He comes to Columbus. That's great. That's huge. I love that. But I also appreciate when a former Buckeye quarterback, who is still a quarterback coach to this day, says, hey, this guy has a factor. This guy is a factor. And there's a reason why Ryan Day ended up putting him and saying he's in the mix of being the Buckeyes quarterback. He ended up going and saying this lengthier comment and quote. I think this is worth noting and saying here on the show to give you more of an insight into how a former Buckeye quarterback views this young man. Quote, "The guy that really impressed me in that quarterback room was Julian Sand. That kid's going to play. I don't know when it's going to be, but that kid understands where the ball needs to go. He gets it out of his hands. He's accurate," end quote. Now, that was before he said, "Mark my words, I think he's going to jump a few spots." He went in to say the guy that impressed me in that quarterback room, a room that is full of 5 guys that are really talented. This is after he ended up talking about and discussing Will Howard earlier in this show, in this conversation. He goes on to say that a true freshman quarterback understands where the ball needs to go. He gets it out of his hands. He's accurate. So understanding where the ball needs to go is one thing. Understanding where the ball needs to go and getting it out of your hands is another. Understanding where the ball needs to go, getting it out of your hands and being accurate, that's a whole nother level that a lot of guys that are 4 and 5, maybe even 6-year quarterbacks they may understand it in their head, but can't do that consistently. Why? It's not easy. It's not easy to be a guy that can that knows where the ball needs to go, gets it out of your hands, and gets it out accurately. That ain't easy. Think about how tough it is, especially when you just get on campus. And who are you going up against that is on the opposition? Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom, Denzel Burke, all of these guys, Davidson Igmanosin, Jordan Hancock, Jermaine Matthews Jr., Calvin Simpson-Hunt. You get the gist. Jayton Bonsu, who does not look like a safety, but that boy is built like a safety. Excuse me, not built like a safety. He's built like a linebacker who is playing safety, has safety ball skills, and move like a safety. And I'm like, hey, bro, you should not be back in that defensive back room. Go come up, gain some more weight, play that Will Backer, and let that thing go. But no, he is a safety. And I understand it. But Julian Sands coming to Ohio State, going up against some really good competition. And what are we looking at here? We're looking at a guy that has quickly realized what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, doing what needs to happen quickly, and is accurate while doing so. I got to clap it up for him really quickly, a slight softer clap than normal, but I got to. Because if a former Buckeye quarterback is saying this now, that's one box that's checked. Former quarterbacks are praising you for things you're doing as a true freshman. Check that box. If Ryan Day is saying you're in the mix, check that box. If there are some things that people that cover Ohio State are seeing with their own eyes, like, oh, he's doing things that are a little bit different, not just for a true freshman, different in general. That's a box check, but that's not important as the box of the coach and getting the approval of the players. Yes, media saying things is one thing, and I understand where I stand in this media conversation. I think my opinion matters, but I am not dumb enough to say my opinion matters more than the peers, the people on the team. The fact that Denzel Burke, I think my opinion is very valuable. I'm not trying to diminish myself. But when Denzel Burke says certain things about Jeremiah Smith and that Jeremiah Smith is a generational player and he's an ex-guy and all these things, after previously saying, I got to wait to see him play, I got to think him out on the field, or this, that, and the third. When Denzel Burke makes those statements, it's weighted so heavily that it outweighs so much is out there in the world. Former Buckeye quarterback saying Julian Sand might be on the field and he might jump a couple spots on the depth chart. That is huge. And I am curious how soon that's going to happen. What is going to happen? I don't have to know when it's going to happen soon. It's going to happen here. Yours truly was recently on Locked On College Football, had a healthy, fun post-spring conversation with Spencer McLaughlin, the host of Locked On College Football. That crossover from that show is coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. And Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent, frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. This episode is brought to you by Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You You saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com.
Still a lot of questions out in Columbus. Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes here to help us try and answer some. Jay, the biggest question out there is the quarterback position. Do you have an inkling of where Ohio State is leaning for who starts for Ryan Day and Chip Kelly this fall?
I know the three guys that are at the top of that competition right now. Spencer, I'm glad to be back on the show with you. The three guys in the mix right now, Will Howard, the former Kansas State quarterback, Devin Brown, I believe it's his third year in Columbus, and Julian Sayin, first time in college football. He's a true freshman who was in the mix, as Ryan Day described it during a presser at the end of spring practice. It's weird, man. We're in another offseason where we're talking about a quarterback competition at Ohio State, and no one has a good handle on where the thing currently stands. We know where it stands. I still think Will Howard is probably going to be the guy that's going to win the job. I'm not sold that he is a major upgrade over Kyle McCord, but that's where we are right now. I don't know what to think about Devin Brown. He has a dream about being an Ohio State starting quarterback. He has done nothing to show me that he is going to be a starting quarterback in the upcoming season. And Julian Sands just has a cup of coffee, has 15 practices under his belt in college at Ohio State. So that's not a big enough sample size for me to say a true freshman is going to start. So my thought, Will Howard, Ryan Day probably will not announce a starting quarterback until the middle of fall camp.
And it's strange to me that we're in this position for the Buckeyes, because I had in my mind penciled in Will Howard. I like Will Howard, and I think that he can have the best season of his career at Ohio State. He's got great offensive coaches. He's going to have a good offensive line. He's going to have a great running back tandem behind him, which is where he had his best year when Deuce Vaughn was with him in the backfield at Kansas State. He's going to have a good receiving core as well. But you have three very different options here. You've got the veteran, you've got the sort of experience, timeline could line up for him to, make it his moment, it's his time. That's Devin Brown. And then you have we don't know. I mean, you see a guy at practice every now and then, you see him in the spring game, but you don't know what Julian's saying is as a college quarterback. And so does it concern you that Ohio State could not right now line up and know who would need to be behind center?
No, because I think if the game was playing right now, I think they would start Will Howard. It's the long process that Ryan Day wants to go through to make sure Will Howard is the guy. I think it's a situation where possibly internally they've already announced a starting quarterback. Kind of similar to what I thought last year was that McCord, this was never anything that came out in the public or no sources said anything. It's just me in my head. I thought last year internally they already said who the starting quarterback was going to be, but they prolonged it into the regular season for whatever reason. Ryan Day wanted to do that. Something tells me internally right now, Will Howard's the guy, and they're just going through this process just to do it. I don't understand it. I would be concerned if it is a true freshman, and I would be concerned if it was Devin Brown, just being honest with you. Devin Brown, he got hurt 3 times in less than 12 months last year. He hasn't really done anything to wow me with his arms or his legs and say, oh, he is that guy. He's a college quarterback. Like, he'll start at some point, maybe at Ohio State, maybe not, but I have not seen enough to wow me. And Julian Sands just a kid. I mean, he's young and inexperienced, just got to school. So if it's one of those two guys, I would be concerned. If it's Will Howard, I would not be, especially with Emeka Egbuka healthy, the two good running backs in the backfield. And if Jeremiah Smith is that dude like everybody believes he will be, Will Howard will be fine.
That is a dude. You talk about new wide receiver names to know in college football this year. Cam Coleman at Auburn, Ryan Williams at Alabama, and frankly, I think Jeremiah Smith as well at Ohio State. It feels like he's going to be one of those top guys that really bursts onto the scene for the Buckeyes offense this year. But far be it from me to overlook or try to brush under the rug predictions I have made that don't come to pass. But we have that situation here, and that's that all 5 Ohio State quarterbacks are still on the roster, and the window to enter the transfer portal has closed. Players can still come out of the portal. There are a lot of talented guys still available in the transfer portal, impact players for teams to get in 2024. But you got 5 guys in that room, Jay, and I thought all spring one of these guys is going to move, and we saw quarterback movement, but it wasn't out of Ohio State. What does that say about the players that Ryan Day's got at his disposal?
They're all ready to compete. And I think it's what Ryan Day and the other coaches want right now is guys that want to compete, guys that want to be there, and guys that will grind every single day. But also, I realize, and I've been very vocal about naming players that I think should enter the portal. And it's not that I think they're bad. I just think for their own personal timeline and own personal progression, as far as when they will get on the field or when they could get on the field, they may get on the field sooner at a different school rather than if they stayed at Ohio State. I'm cool with all 5 guys staying. I would be cool if 1 or 2 of them left. Like, I would be perfectly fine with that. But if you're all there, you got to compete. And if you at some point during this upcoming offseason or in the season get tired of competing and you realize that you made the wrong decision, okay, cool. Hop in the portal in December. I don't care. I truly don't care at all. But it does show that there's a good culture in there. They understand what's going on, and they're cool competing, which is great. I do think it was kind of dumb, and I don't use that word all the time, Spencer. I think it was kind of dumb when people were saying, oh, Aaron Noland, he is a true freshman. Why is he not in the quarterback battle right now? Homie just got on campus. The only reason Julian Sand's actually in the battle is because he has something different than the other quarterbacks that are older than him has with the way he throws the ball, and the other guys really haven't separated themselves. And he's just different than Aaron Noland. Not saying Aaron Noland is bad, but Ohio State people are saying, oh, why is Aaron Noland not in the battle right now? Homie just got here. Julian Sand just got here, and he's not supposed to be in that QB competition, but he's just that good. Aaron Noland just getting to Ohio State, not transferring, great for him. I look forward to Aaron Noland being a quarterback at Ohio State, Julian Sand one day. I don't know if Devin Brown will ever start for the Buckeyes, and I'll leave it at that.
So Ohio State has had a great transfer portal offseason, top 10 in class, no action in the spring cycle. But between that, no players coming in from the April 16th to April 30th window there. I mean, they could, there was a report going around that Jacoby Matthews, who's probably the top-ranked safety in the transfer portal right now, could be going to Ohio State. We'll see if that move gets made. But with all that and the quarterback question circling around Ryan Day's program right now, what would you say is the overall vibe or mood amongst Ohio State fans? Is not knowing a starter dragging down the feeling of, hey, this is a national championship level roster, which it absolutely is?
No, it's really not, Spencer. The vibe right now is still natty or bust by a lot of fans out there. I don't like using that terminology myself to describe
high bar. That is a high bar.
When Denzel Burke is in a presser during the beginning of spring practice talking about, hey, natty or bust, and he is a guy that could have gone to the NFL draft in 2024, could have been at worst an early portion of the second-round pick, could have been a first-round pick. But if he says that and the other guys on defense are saying the same thing, I would follow their lead as far as expectations. But, I mean, the vibe really is not only the quarterback right now. They're trusting Ryan Day that they can put the right guy in at quarterback, but also trusting that the Buckeyes defense is just going to be different this year. So much different, so much better than almost every other team in the country. Can't say every team. There's still that team down in Athens that I have mad respect for, that I still believe is the best team in the country. Buckeye fans may hate me for that, but I don't care. I want to give it to you the way that I view it right now. I still think Georgia and Ohio State, if they lined up today, if they lined up in August, if they lined up in December, I still think right now Georgia is the better football team. And Ohio State can change that, my mindset with that, based on how they play in the season. But Spencer, I still think the vibe right now is natty or bust by a lot of guys. But it's still the vibe is Ohio State has a good enough roster to beat Michigan. That's the vibe. Ohio State has a good enough roster to compete and to win the Big Ten championship for the first time since 2020. That is a belief by a lot of fans. And the belief is Buckeye fans believe the Buckeyes will make noise in the CFP in the fall. Reality is they got to get the quarterback right and the offensive line. If one of those two things is not right and it's a bad person or a group of five for the O-line that's really bad and poor and things just go really off the rails, the Buckeyes might lose to Michigan again. That's just reality. They might lose and not even play in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. It had to be really bad. I'm not saying Michigan's going to be like
I'd pick Ohio State. Like, even with the quarterback questions, Michigan doesn't know who their starting quarterback is either. And now, am I taking Ohio State's roster or Michigan's? I'm going with Ohio State's. But if Ohio State goes 11-2, loses the Big Ten title game, gets to the playoff, wins a game, loses in the second round, I can't wait to have the hot seat conversation with you, Jay. We're just going to hit it up right underneath Ryan Day. Perhaps we will not do that because we try to be rational. But Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, great stuff. As always, you check him out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, Jay.
Really appreciated Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football having me on the show. And I really hope you enjoyed that. You want to do that crossover every now and then. Spencer and I, generally, if there's a crossover, you get that whole thing in its entirety right here at the end of a show. You can follow me on X at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes here on a hump day. We'll see you next time.